Riley is one of the returners that I think a lot of people in the space are really high on. I know that we covered him last year. Paige did a really great job breaking down his game. He's somebody who came on at the end of the year, and I think that he's poised for a really, really big breakout season.
100%, dude. I think what you mentioned, him being a returner, him coming into year 2 without Castleton, now that he's gone off to the NBA, I think it's going to actually, not that Castleton hurt his game, but I mean, if anything, I thought Castleton actually helped his game in certain aspects. But in terms of, you know, him seeing more of the ball, him being able to explore more of that on the ball ability that he has, I think it's a great situation that he was in terms of playing next to Castleton last year, going through that experience, playing without the ball in his hands as much, going into year 2, more ball in his hands, while also, you know, having that in his arsenal, like all the stuff that he did last season, you know, with his off-ball cutting and, you know, spacing and all that stuff. So, as you mentioned, a returner, but a guy that might actually make a huge jump in year 2.
I'm going to say something crazy, and I'm not saying that I'm predicting that it happens.
Sure.
But I think that this class at the top is so wide open that I think if Kugel comes back and cleans up a few things, gets the ball in his hands as the lead guard, which I think is going to happen, and just makes, you know, big strides, bumps up his average to around 20 points per game-ish.
Yeah. Yep.
I think he could be the #1 pick.
Okay. I thought you were going to say something else, but okay. I can see that.
I'm not predicting that he's going to be.
Yeah,
I would probably bet against that. I just think that right now, it's so wide open, man.
Yeah.
It's so wide open. It's not as if he's coming back as like a senior. You know what I mean? Like, he is coming back as a returning sophomore. He's still going to be fairly young. He's got the requisite like size and athleticism. He's got an interesting case that you could make. Again, I'm not predicting it. I just think that he's as much of a wild card shot at it, at the top 3, at the first overall pick, as anybody else. So yeah, I feel it's the preseason. It's time to get a little wonky, a little crazy. And, you know, we know the draft is unpredictable. So screw it. I'm just going to say it out loud.
But Corey, can I say, I don't think what you're saying is that crazy, just because when we have a year where you don't have a bona fide #1, #2, #3, it kind of is the returning guys that you start looking for, right? You start looking for the guys who spent a year or 2 in college. They come back for their sophomore, junior season, physical development, you know, development in their game. Those are the types of guys that end up, you know, being really good and end up kind of pushing their names higher. I thought you were going to say that you thought Kugel could have like a Jordan Hawkins type of leap in year was where I thought you were going, but it's similar, you know, where Jordan Hawkins in year 1 was, you know, he didn't get a lot of playing time, struggled with injury, was really raw, came back in year 2 and kind of lit college basketball on fire, ended up going pretty high to the Pelicans. So I could see that same trajectory for Kugel as well, where, you know, he spent year 1, wasn't on the ball as much, you know, had an upperclassman that kind of dictated the terms on offense. And now in year 2, he's going to have more usage. He's going to see more of the ball. And, hopefully, you know, over the summer, continue to work on his game, clean, as you mentioned, right? Clean some stuff up. And then maybe his stock shoots way up, because even last year's class, Corey, that, you know, a lot of us had him on our boards, and he could have been drafted last year as well. So,
yeah, that's kind of why I think he's a little bit closer to like I almost feel like he's starting out in that Hawkins range. Just based off the strength of this class, or the lack of strength in this class. But I could really see, and Dirty Dancer in the comments says I could see him jumping up the boards like Oladipo. I think that's a really good name to throw out there, as a guy who you know, made that jump. So let's get into a little bit of his film here and show off what is the appeal there. And the first thing to say, at 6'5", 6'6", my dude is a crazy athlete. Like, real legitimate bounce, like in transition. Shout out our guy Colin Castleton leading the break as a center. Cock back, just throw it down, man. And, you know, we see a lot of that in transition. He did a really good job cutting as well. But he's a freak athlete. He almost had one of the most insane dunks of the college season that he ended up missing that I don't think I have in the clips, but just a really, really impressive athletic two guard.
No, Corey, you're right. He's a really, really good athlete. Good size. He looks like a solid 6'5", maybe 6'5.5", 6'6" even. But the thing with him that stuck out to me athletically was the hang time. You have guys that can jump really high, but to hang in the air is a different thing, Corey. Like, it's weird, hard to even, I don't know the science behind it, but Kugel's one of these guys that really has a lot of hang time when attacking the rim. You mentioned the cutting, dude. That's the one that really stuck out to me. Really good cutter off the ball. I'd like to see more of that in year 2. Not to say that what I mean by that is, like, I like that he did it last year, and I hope that even with the ball in his hands, he'll find opportunities to continue to leverage that strength that he has. Obviously, Castleton did a great job of setting him up and finding him for a lot of those opportunities. And another thing that I want to throw in, I think he's a really physical player. I like that he embraced a lot of physicality when he went to the rim. I'd like to see more of it. Not that I'm saying like he's the most physical player, because, you know, I like to see the free throw stuff get better. But in year 2, you know, if he continues to incorporate that aspect and he continues to leverage that athleticism into opportunities at the rim, Corey, when we talk about at the rim opportunities, we're not always talking about layups and dunks and floaters, but fouls, you know. Collect those fouls, go to the free throw line. Corey, you talked about him getting to 20 points per game. You're at the free throw line a ton. It's going to help a lot. And so hopefully him getting there more and shooting at a better percentage than I think he's like, 64, 65% from the line. That number going up as well will help a lot.
Yeah, 100%. Like, his shooting numbers, which we'll touch on in a little bit, really good. But the free throw percentage at 66% leaves a lot to be desired. He's leaving, you know, free money on the table. I want to see that up at 77, 78, 80, 81, 82. So I think it's plausible. I think with, you know, him possibly getting there a little bit more often, it'll be something that maybe is a little bit more easily achievable. But yeah, I really like the ways in which he does attack. I mean, one of the things that he does a lot, you see it here, when he comes off these handoffs, he loves to reject it. And he's got such a quick, violent first step. And he's really good with, like, using his body and shoulders to fool the defender, that when he, you know, springs off that handoff and rejects it, he's at the rim. You see him on this possession come off left sideline, and he's able to use a little, like, jump stop, put his shoulder in, and finish through contact there. That's the kind of stuff that I think is really impressive with him at the rim. Now, as far as the numbers go, his half-court finishing was 48.7% at the rim. And I think that there's a couple of things there when we talk about, like, why he wasn't finishing as well as you would think. One, you know, he came on late. So I think that, you know, maybe sample and roll played a part, but he's also at times, he's a little frenetic.
Yes.
You know, like, I don't want to say he's at, like, double speed on a podcast, but, you know, maybe at like 1.25, right? Like, he's a little out of control here, and he gets to the middle of the paint. He doesn't really have a plan. He's athletic and enough to get into the teeth of the defense here, but he doesn't really realize who's waiting at the rim. You know, he's just no plan, low shot clock. So he's got to get it up, but just gets swatted. So, you know, I think that's one of the things. And then also sometimes there's some touch stuff. Yeah. You know, but I think it's fixable.
So, Corey, I think the first thing that you said, right, the frenetic energy that he kind of plays with, it's funny, you highlighted it here on a drive, but you can even see it sometimes, like when he's just standing in the corner. Like most guys, when they're standing in the corner, they're a little tired, trying to catch a breath. You know, they're like, oh, I got a little break here. You see him standing in the corner, and he's like hopping around. He's like shaking his hands, like he wants to like do something. He didn't
take his Ritalin.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. That's fucking hilarious. I was just thinking in my head like ADD, ADHD, like, you know. But like he's one of these high energy guys that like really kind of has to learn to kind of, focus and, control that energy a little bit. But I'm with you, dude. And the touch stuff is a big thing that I wrote down. Like, I think his touch could use a little bit of work. And not to say that I think he has bad touch, but I think it's a combination of things, Corey. Like what you brought up in terms of sometimes him driving without a plan, frenetic energy, that 0.5, that 1.5, 2 times speed. If you kind of put all that together with him not having elite touch, sometimes it's going to get a little bit messy. So if he can learn to slow things down a little bit, be a little bit more strategic with how he uses his athleticism, maybe having a little bit more of a plan when attacking the rim, that could see his touch improve just from the timing and speed aspect of what he's doing.
I agree 100%. I think it's well within, his capabilities to do it. And then, he also has these moments where he just is really impressive attacking the hoop. We see it here against Arkansas. And I mean, look at that cross, first step against Jordan Walsh, and beats him to the rim. I mean, Jordan Walsh got drafted on the back of the fact that he's this, potential lockdown defender. So he has the capability to kind of, and I really like the pace on this possession, like little hezzy, really in control here. And if we could, and that's why I think we could see that with more consistency next season, as he does get more comfortable, as he has been improving and getting invited to, all these different camps, working on his game, improving that aspect of his finishing. I really think he could take that step. Now, one of the things I'm not really going to highlight, because, we're trying to hit all of these guys. Yeah. I do think that the other, major improvement area of his game, sub 10% assist percentage with a negative assist to turnover ratio, right? And if he's going to be able to get into the teeth of the defense and do stuff like this consistently, he's going to have to leverage that scoring to improve his playmaking, especially if we're talking about somebody that not only is taking that leap into the lottery conversation, but potentially even higher, aspiring higher than that. So those are kind of the two major areas that I think he really needs to kind of just flesh out this season.
No, Corey, I'm with you. Even this clip that you're playing right now on repeat, like, I love we just talked about pace, right? Like, you gotta love, like, he goes between the legs. The setup into that crossover is awesome, right? He changes the tempo a little bit, gets Jordan Walsh kind of like right off this tween. Jordan Walsh is like, okay, I have a half second, and then Kugel goes psych, crossover right into the lane, blows right by him. Like, that's the type of timing, pace stuff that we're talking about. If he can continue to do this and develop in that, he's going to be filthy because of the athlete that we're talking about. And Corey, you said it, he had more turnovers than he had assists last season. And that's something that he's got to work on. But with him having more of the ball in his hands, it might have even been a thing, Corey, where he was a freshman last season playing on a team with some upperclassmen. When he had the ball in his hands, he might have felt like, damn, I got to do something with the ball right here. Like, I'm not getting the ball, the rock in my hands all the time. I got to go get a bucket. I got to go make something happen for myself, or else I might be, sitting in the corner for the next 3-4 possessions. So that might be part of that, why his numbers were what they were last season, kind of that freshman or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But I think in year 2, with a bigger role, bigger opportunity, I think he's going to have a little bit more confidence in, who he is as a player for that Florida team, and could lead to, better results.
Yeah, and that was kind of his role too, like, being off ball and adjusting to then taking on this year more of that on ball role. I think that will kind of help him feel more comfortable in his spot and not be like, all right, I'm just a scorer, I can expand and do some more things. Now, one of the reasons though that, I do like him as a prospect beyond just his ability to play with the ball in his hands, and why I think he can be valuable at the next level, is because he is a guy that showed that he's a capable off-ball player as well. He was 40% on like every jumper imaginable per synergy, whether that was guarded, unguarded, and spot ups or dribble jumpers. He's a very consistent shooter with, I think, a lot of room to improve. Yeah. Because I think that sometimes we talk about how frenetic he looks. I think his footwork at times is even frenetic. This is pretty solid here because he's a guy who likes to hop into his shots. So this is pretty poised and, splash a little bit unguarded, but at times he's even sped up. So I think there's even room to improve on his strong shooting numbers, but just the fact that he is a guy that is going to be able to play off of other people because he can knock down shots off the ball is something that I think is really, really, something you can build off of moving forward.
No, I agree, Corey. If you look at the numbers, like you mentioned, the synergy breakdown, just on catch and shoot jumpers last season, 39.6%. That's a good number, right? They classified it as very good. Unguarded, 40%. Unguarded, 39.3%. That's pretty good stuff, know? And then even off the dribble, he was 39.4%. So the thing is, if he was doing that in a smaller role with less opportunity, people might be like, oh, whatever. But you watch the eye test, or you can't watch an eye test, but from your eye test, right? When you watch him play, you can see it, dude. And, I also want to give credit to guys like Colin Castleton. Did I just call him Castleton? Guys like Colin Castleton and Kwasi Reeves and all these other guys that, got the ball to him in good situations, and he made the most of it. So once again, Corey, I think his development path from year 1 to year 2, the types of looks that he got last year, the role that he played, that now kind of, stretched out into a bigger role, I think makes him one of the most enticing players to watch in college basketball this season.
Yeah. He's going to be, must scout TV. And, part of that is the fact that he could do some stuff with the ball in his hands too. Right. And when he's got that part of his game going, you go, oh, wow. Like some special stuff, we'll see here, comes off the screen, between the legs, step back from the SEC logo, high arcing shot, like splash. That's a tough, real deal NBA level shot making display right there. So, I mean, and you see he's like got this, I think that frenetic pace almost is hard to guard at times because, it seems like he doesn't know what to do. How do you guard that as a defender sometimes? And he's got, he's a tough shot maker. And when you're shooting off the dribble at 40% and you're taking some of these shots, I mean, that is a really impressive number because, it's a very difficult shot. We'll see another one here as he comes off the handoff, little combo, violent behind the back there, knocks down that high arcing shot again. I mean, some special stuff there.
No, Corey, I think in the first clip that you showed, the thing that I really liked about him, not just from that clip, but overall, is that Kugel, as I mentioned before, does play with like a physicality, and he is a stronger built guy. Where even if in that first clip, he's coming off that first screen, and it wasn't the cleanest, right? He kind of got bumped a little bit, kind of got bumped by his own man too.
Yeah.
But doesn't lose the ball, doesn't lose control, doesn't lose balance. Is able to recover and hits a really tough shot. And this one as well, as you mentioned, right? The behind the back is violent, but that's also him being like really strong too. And like just a little bump from him can go a long way. And to see how he continues to develop, I thought personally, Corey, I thought at times his handle could be a little bit loose, but still good. Like I still think it's a very good handle, but I think there's room for him to tighten that up a little bit. And as he continues to tighten that up with the strength that he has and the athletic ability that he has, you said it, man. He's dangerous with the ball in his hands.
Absolutely. And he's dangerous at 3 levels, right? He doesn't just have that 3-point stuff. He has an in-between game too, which, is for a freshman, there's some pretty advanced stuff. I really like the pace here.
Yeah.
On this is a tough shot going to his right, which is a tough, more of the sidestep going to your right is really tough. Gets into his body.
That's Devin Booker right there.
Yeah. Again, even, we see him come off the handoff and he rejects it, gets into the body, gets to his spot. Tough shot over a defender. So he's got some skill in that mid-range area too, that really, really, really impressive. Now, that's not to say that he was perfect. We go back to some of the frenetic energy that he has sometimes, and it could look a little bit wonky. And this is where you go, all right, this is why he stayed in the draft. He didn't declare and went back to school because it's like, 20 seconds on the shot clock, kind of off balance, fall away mid-range shot where he's falling to the ground. Yeah, like that's the kind of thing where your coach goes, all right, why don't you come take a seat for a second? Let's talk it out. You know, like there's so many other things that decisions you can make here besides taking this shot. Move off the ball, go get it back, right? This is just a force. It's not like it's at the beginning of the game. So it's just not a shot that you need to be taking right now. It's not a heat check, you know, like, so he does have those moments where you go, all right, the shooting, the shot making is real, but it's also not perfect.
Yeah. No, Corey, I see it, dude. It's one of those things. Like I have a guy on my team. He's like 21, 22, young guy. Sometimes in the morning he'll have a Bang energy drink, comes in the office, first hour, starts like shooting some wild jokes, sometimes inappropriate. And we're like, hey, bud, maybe go to the bathroom, relax in there for a little bit and come back, you know? And that's Kugel right here, right? Early in the game, you know, maybe he had himself a Celsius and he's like feeling himself a little bit and gets too excited and takes this freaking nasty ass shot. But Corey, you said it, right? That's why he went back to college. He wanted to take another year to develop, and now he's going to go vegan. He's going to just drink water only, no more Celsius, sleep 9 hours every night and come back, you know, a different type of player. And so it's exciting, but this is the type of stuff that we're going to be looking for, right? We're going to be seeing, okay, Kugel, your shot selection at times a little wild. Let's see what this looks like in year 2. Your coach is going to trust you, give you the ball more. The offense might be run through you. How are you going to take that responsibility? What are the type of decisions you're going to be making? Are you going to have your teammates in mind? All that stuff's going to be really important. So if he continues to grow in that, then for sure we're going to see something really exciting there. That's a tough shot right there. Damn.
Yeah, this will be the last clip that we watch with Kugel. And you know, just to finish on a positive note in this little mid-range area, tough combo, getting pushed towards the sideline. Got Liam Robbins, who's a big time, you know, shot blocker, a big dude there, finishing over length, pulls up, you know, doesn't finish out of control at the rim, right? He knows that he's got to kind of get to a little pull up, good pace, gets into the body, plays with that physicality, and just a really nice to display of touch there from him. So overall, man, it's hard to not enjoy Kugel, right? Like he is just a really fun guy to monitor this year. I think that he's a guy that we're going to be high on entering the year as a collective. You know, I'm not saying I have him number 1. I'm just, like I said, mentioned earlier, I'm saying that I think there's a world in which he has this crazy year where he takes a major leap. And if he does that, then I think that it'll, you know, be something where he is in the conversation when it does come draft time.